Aric gripped the rope tightly as he moved along the broken bridge. Below him was nothing but a bottomless pit, so deep and dark that even the blue light of his crystal couldn't reach it. Every step made the old wood groan and sway. "If I fall, tell my mom I love her. You'll tell her yourself," Elara said firmly, her voice low and steady. She stepped onto the bridge after Aric, moving carefully. Thorne came last, making sure everyone kept moving. Halfway across, a cold wind rose from the pit, making the bridge swing dangerously. Aric clung to the rope, his heart hammering in his chest. "We're almost there, just don't look down." Of course, the moment he said it, Rowan looked down. "Bad idea, bad idea, bad idea," Rowan muttered as he stared into the swirling blackness. Shapes twisted and floated deep below, shadows of people, their faces frozen in silent screams. What is that? The lost souls. Victims of the Queen's magic. They fell, and never returned. Aric swallowed hard and forced his feet to move. He had to focus. But just as he reached the last few planks, a terrible sound echoed from behind them. A loud snap. Aric spun around. One of the ropes had snapped loose. Rowan screamed as the bridge tilted sideways. He slipped, his foot dangling over the edge. Without thinking, Aric lunged forward and grabbed Rowan's arm. Rowan clung to him, his face pale as milk. "Pull!" Elara shouted, bracing herself on the other side. Aric gritted his teeth and heaved with all his strength. Slowly, painfully, he dragged Rowan back onto the bridge. "I hate this bridge!" Rowan scrambled to safety, shaking all over but alive. He gasped. Together they crawled the last few feet to the other side and collapsed onto solid ground, breathing hard. No way back now, only forward. Thorne quickly cut the remaining rope with his dagger. The bridge collapsed behind them with a final groan, falling into the endless darkness. Thorne said, wiping his brow. They rested for a moment, catching their breath. Ahead, the tunnel sloped upward, and a faint reddish glow lit the stones. "We're close to the castle, close to the Queen's heart," Thorne said. "Let's finish this." Aric looked at the others, Rowan still pale but determined, Elara fierce and steady, Thorne tired but unbroken. They had all risked everything to get here. He tightened his grip on the crystal. As they moved forward, the walls of the tunnel changed. Strange carvings appeared, images of battles, twisted beasts, and the Queen herself, her crown tall and wicked, her smile cold. She's been preparing for this a long time. She knew someday someone would come for her, and she made sure it wouldn't be easy. The reddish glow grew stronger. Soon they found themselves standing before a massive iron door. Strange symbols covered its surface, pulsing faintly with dark magic. "This is it, the final gate, so, do we just knock?" "Something like that. This key was made long ago by the first king of Eldoria. Before the Queen turned everything dark. It's one of the few things she can't control." Thorne pulled out a small, ancient key from his cloak. It was shaped like a serpent, its eyes tiny red gems. He slid the key into the lock. The door shuddered. The symbols flashed red, then blue, then black. A deep rumbling growl came from beyond the door, and for a moment, Aric thought the earth itself would split apart. Then, creak! The door began to open, and beyond it the true horrors of the Queen's castle waited. The heavy iron door swung open with a moaning groan, and a wall of cold, stale air rushed out to meet them. Aric tightened his fingers around his crystal. The castle beyond wasn't like anything he had imagined. It wasn't grand or glittering, it was broken. The stone walls were cracked and crumbling. Black vines with thorns as long as knives crawled across the floors and ceilings. Strange red lanterns floated in the air, casting eerie light over the twisted hallways. And worst of all, the whole place seemed to breathe, like the castle itself was alive. "I think I like the tunnels better. No turning back." Her voice was strong, but even she looked uneasy. They stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind them with a loud bang. Everyone jumped. "Great, now we're trapped. Stay close." The Queen built her castle like a maze, designed to confuse and separate her enemies. Thorne frowned as he scanned the walls. Aric nodded. Every step forward felt like stepping deeper into a nightmare. The floors weren't even straight. Some slanted sharply, others twisted into spirals. Doorways appeared and disappeared as if the walls were changing when they weren't looking. Once, they turned down a long hallway lined with broken mirrors. As they walked past, the mirrors didn't show their reflections. Instead, they showed scenes from their worst memories. Aric saw his village burning, his mother calling his name. Rowan saw himself alone, lost in a dark forest. Elara saw a little girl crying behind prison bars. Thorne saw a battlefield littered with the bodies of his fallen friends. "Don't look! Keep moving! It's just the castle trying to weaken you." Aric yanked his eyes away and forced himself forward. His legs felt heavier with every step, but he would not give up. Finally, they reached a round chamber with 4 doorways. In the center stood a tall stone statue of the queen, her stone eyes watching them coldly. "Which door?" Rowan asked, spinning in a slow circle. "The map ends here. This part wasn't drawn. Maybe it changes every time someone enters." Aric stepped closer to the statue. There was something strange about it. Something he couldn't explain. He reached out and brushed his fingers against the stone. Suddenly, the statue's mouth opened with a terrible grinding noise, and a voice echoed out, "To find the path to break my crown, choose wisely now, or all fall down. 1 door is safe, 3 spell your doom. Pick wrong, and this will be your tomb." The doors shimmered. Strange symbols appeared above each one: a serpent, a sword, a sun, and a crown. Rowan cried, backing away. Elara spoke up, her voice urgent, saying they had to choose, and quickly. Then Aric shouted, "The sun! It's the opposite of the queen's darkness! Light! Hope!" Aric stared at the symbols, his mind racing. A serpent meant poison, a sword meant battle, a crown meant the queen herself. "The sun!" Aric insisted. "That one! We have to trust it!" Elara called, "Let's move!" They ran to the sun door. As Aric touched it, the door swung open and warm golden light spilled out. Behind them, the other 3 doors cracked open, and from them poured dark, shadowy monsters with hollow eyes and clawed hands. Rowan screamed. Thorne drew his sword, but they didn't stop to fight. They leapt through the sunlit door just as the monsters lunged, and the door slammed shut behind them, cutting off the screams of the shadows. Aric lay panting on the cold floor, his heart racing. They had made it. But as he sat up and looked around, he realized they were now inside the heart of the castle itself. And somewhere ahead, the queen was waiting. The new room was strange, nothing like the cold, broken castle they had seen before. Instead, they stood in a giant garden. But this was no ordinary garden. The plants were twisted and wrong. Roses with black petals dripped red sap. Vines with silver thorns slithered across the ground like snakes. Giant flowers hung from the trees, their petals opening and closing with soft, sucking sounds. Rowan's voice trembled as he said he thought the plants were breathing. Thorne replied, confirming that they were. He explained, this was the Queen's Garden of Thorns, and everything here was alive, and deadly. Then the Queen's voice echoed, taunting them. "Little heroes, brave and small, step with care or lose it all." Elara warned, telling everyone to stay on the stone path and not to touch anything no matter what. Aric felt a chill run down his spine. The Queen's magic was strong here, stronger than ever before. Elara drew her dagger. Carefully, they stepped onto the narrow stone path winding through the garden. The vines hissed as they passed, and the black roses turned their heads to watch them. Suddenly, a small figure darted out from the bushes, a girl about Aric's age, with golden hair and bright blue eyes, crying for help, saying she was lost. Rowan started to say they had to help her, but Elara shouted, "No! She's not real!" At her words, the girl's face twisted into something monstrous. Her eyes became black pits, her mouth stretching wide with sharp teeth. She hissed like a snake and disappeared back into the vines. Rowan stammered, asking what that was. Thorne explained, it was one of the Queen's illusions. She makes you see what you want to save, but if you try, she devours you. Aric shivered. He realized now that the Queen didn't just use power and armies, she used fear. She turned kindness and bravery into traps. They continued along the path, even more carefully now. At the center of the garden stood a massive tree. Its bark was blackened and cracked, and golden fruits hung from its branches. At the base of the tree, a stone archway shimmered with blue light. The next gate. Aric pointed, exclaiming, "There! That's our way forward!" But between them and the tree, the stone path ended. Only thick grass and slithering vines separated them now. Elara said they'd have to run for it. Thorne instructed them, telling everyone to stay low and not let the vines grab them. Aric crouched, ready to sprint, his heart thudding painfully in his chest. Thorne gave the signal, "Now!" They ran. The vines lunged from the ground, snapping at their legs. Rowan nearly tripped, but Aric grabbed his arm and yanked him forward. Elara slashed at a vine trying to wrap around her ankle. The tree loomed closer. The vines grew thicker, faster, hissing and whispering terrible things. Just as Aric felt a vine tighten around his foot, he swung his crystal down hard. The light flared, burning the vine to ash. He and Rowan dove through the archway, followed by Elara and Thorne. The moment they crossed, the vine shrieked in anger, but the light of the archway pushed them back. They collapsed onto solid stone once again, breathing hard. Rowan gasped. "That was awful," Aric replied. "But we made it." One step closer to the queen. Thorne said, "The throne room, at the top." Ahead of them, a dark staircase twisted upward into the shadows. Aric's stomach tightened. They were so close now, but he knew the hardest fight was yet to come. And the queen would be ready. Before we climb those stairs into episode 13, tell me, what do you think the queen's greatest weakness might be, based on everything you've seen so far? And what would you bring into battle if you had to face her yourself?